You are listening to In the Books, a period podcast, hosted by the following fangirls. I'm Michelle. I am in the States. You can find me at Musings on Instagram.
I am Rita. I wrote former UK. Let's just go with that. And at Annoying Rita on Instagram. This is confusing. What did I do? Why did I do that? Let's not question this. Anyway, welcome to the final episode in our ongoing series on All the Light We Cannot See, the Netflix miniseries based on Anthony Doerr's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel of the same name. But before we begin, I want to announce our next podcast series because I know most of you stop listening at the end. I can see the drop-off. It's very annoying. Guys, the song is the best part.
Yes.
Anyway, I've convinced Michelle to watch Normal People, which isn't, strictly speaking, a period drama unless you consider the early 2000s a distinct enough time period. Maybe you do. Depends how old you are. But it is, of course, based on a book, so it's in our wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something that interests you, then look out for our first episodes in the new year. And after that, it is Bridgerton time!
Oh, yes!
But before that, let's start where we left off, as we always do, with a very lengthy recap.
Here we go. Okay, so we started with the barely conscious Von Rumpel dragging himself up the stairs of Etienne's home, screaming at Marie that he is gonna get her. Marie locks herself in the attic office, and to make herself extra secure, she drags the massive armoire in front of the door to barricade herself in. Von Rumpel collapses against the door in a sweaty heap and explains to her that he has a gun and a hand grenade, but that he doesn't have to use it. She just has to tell him where the Sea of Flames is. Inside the office, Marie makes a desperate bid for help over the radio by calling for her uncle. Cut to the aftermath of the bombing at the boulangerie. Everyone is strewn across the room, and when Werner wakes, he finds that Etienne has a gaping wound in his abdomen. Yeah, ouch. He explains to Werner that when your soul is leaving the earth, you can see your whole life laid out in moments. Flashback time. It's June 1st, 1944. Etienne listens to a broadcast from London. The newsreader reads Chanson d'automne.
Yes, I'm going to say yes, like I am an authority.
Yeah, okay. Chanson d'automne. Autumn. It's autumn. Hello.
The autumn song. There you go.
Yeah, anyway. And an excited Etienne runs downstairs where he finds his very sick-looking sister and Marie having their soup. He tells them that the autumn song is the agreed-upon signal to the French resistance that the invasion of Normandy was imminent. Etienne panics that there is so much they have to do, and Aunt Manec is sick. She has been ordered to rest because any anxiety might be bad for her heart. Marie offers to help in her stead. She cannot watch for ships, but she can carry messages. Manec encourages her brother to help him too, asking him if he wants to live before he dies. He seems to consider this earnestly.
So the next day, as Marie is preparing for her first mission, Etienne approaches her and tells her to ask him again to go out into the world, and she does. Aunt Manec, who is told they're going out together, finds Etienne's old pageboy flat cap, quite the cute look, under a pile of linen and hands it to him. He never used to leave home without his hat, and she has kept it for him for 20 years. She tears up as she watches them leave. When they arrive outside, Etienne struggles with war flashbacks, but holds on to Marie's hand and perseveres. Marie and Etienne's first stop is, of course, the boulangerie, where they shock the townspeople. They are handed some baguettes and told the burnt one is not for eating. When they arrive home, they break open the bread and find a long coded message inside. Aunt Manec is surprised to see them immediately head out the door again. When Etienne calling back that they have much to do, bye, toodaloo, he got over his agoraphobia real quick. Quick.
Yeah.
Marie and Etienne then head to a cove to do some fishing.
Wink, wink.
Etienne is in fact looking out across the bay at the boats. They note down that there is a new arrival from Rotterdam under a Dutch flag. They were German occupied at the time. They suspect that the ship is carrying concrete for the reinforcement of the town because it's about to get the shit blown out of it. I don't think the concrete helped much. Marie writes this down using a Braille typewriter. They're obviously acting suspiciously, so it's not long before they are questioned by German soldiers. The notes of paper written in Braille seem suspicious to them, so they have Marie read them aloud. Marie, who has read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea just far too many times, probably about as much times as we have watched Poldark Season 1, just specifically, like maybe episode 4 and 5, begins to recite a passage from memory and quickly diffuses any tension, and they leave them to their fishing. Etienne remarks that he is sometimes frightened by how good Marie is at this.
When they arrive home, this is all in the same day. They find smoke billowing out of the kitchen. A pan has caught fire, and Aunt Mannix unconscious in the kitchen. Etienne takes her pulse and finds she is already gone. He weeps over her body and promises his sister they will finish her work. Flashback concluded. Etienne begs Werner to go to Marie and protect her from the desperate Germans and asks him to tell her thank you and that a tiger is happier dead than in a cage. She has set him free. Werner begins to cry. Etienne holds his face and tells him he is a good boy and not to let the war break him. Before he dies, he asks Werner to promise to protect Marie. Werner promises earnestly and then watches as the life drains out of the professor. Back over at the attic, Marie talks to her father through the radio. Von Rumpel scoffs at her and decides to tell her the story of what happened to her father. Flashback! Daniel steps off his train in Paris and is immediately arrested by the Gestapo. Von Rumpel remarks that he is not so good at this espionage thing, and we would have to agree. Von Rumpel interrogates him, but Daniel turns the table on him. He realizes that Von Rumpel is sick. He smells of sickness, and the stone is not for Hitler's private collection, but is really just a last-ditch attempt to save his own life. Von Rumpel counterattacks with the certainty that Daniel would not give up his life for a simple rock. He is too rational, and so he knows that the rock is with Marie. Daniel tells him he would give his life for his daughter, and so he does. After hours of torture, Von Rumpel learns that love is stronger than any pain he can inflict, and so he shoots Daniel in the head. When the flashback ends, Marie is weeping for her father, but tells him, "You are not gone until I am gone."
Okay, so we cut away to Werner running through the streets of Saint Malo. Bombs are erupting all around him. Eventually, his luck runs out and he is wiped out in an explosion. This is like the 17th time he's been knocked out by an explosion on the show.
Seriously, I mean, the dude has had, 3 or 4 concussions over the course of just a few days. Oh.
His unconscious mind brings him back to his bed in the orphanage listening to Debussy. His sister rips his headphones away, and now the fully conscious Werner wakes up in the middle of the street in Saint Malo. Bombing number 2. He's survived in the past, I'd say half hour, by the way.
Yeah.
Back at the house, Von Rumpel is threatening Marie with a grenade, as you do. So she gathers her strength and then pulls out a hidden handgun. I would have got the gun earlier, by the way.
Yeah.
Von Rumpel derisively asks who would be stupid and reckless enough to give her gun to a blind girl. Well, the answer is, of course, Uncle Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
Marie then proves she is rather a good shot by striking within inches of Von Rumpel's head through the wall of the attic. Kind of impressive. He
Yes.
decides to start taking her a little bit more seriously. So unwinds his explosives and explains to her that the explosives will deafen her so he can take his chances with a, quote, half-conscious little girl with nothing but a sense of smell and her gun. Okay, so when Marie doesn't give up the diamond, he sighs dramatically and begins counting down from 10. Between his counts, we cut away to see Werner running along the town's wall fortification as shit blows up around him. It's very Pearl Harbour. And also kind of Tom Cruise in an action movie aesthetic, you know? Like, I'm kind of waiting for doves to sort of fly out in the background. I do believe they call it a hero shot for a reason. It's supremely cool, but by the time we get to about 3 in the countdown, we cut to Marie, who has put on her headphones for the radio as protection and shielding her ears from the blast. I thought this was particularly clever. When we reach 1, the room explodes. Werner watches the roof explode in the attic from the town wall like, oh shit, I did not get there in time.
The sound drops out as Marie fumbles around on the floor for the gun. Von Rumpel peeks over the wreck that is the attic door and sees her. But before he can reach her, he hears a voice call out, "It's Werner!" He has come to protect Marie and he does by distracting Von Rumpel long enough for Marie to get her hearing back. She fires off 5 of her 6 bullets. Von Rumpel decides to take care of Werner first, seeing as Marie's odds of killing him have just plummeted. Werner is hiding in a room with a radio, so he does what every boy genius would do. He fashions a garrote out of the wires and tries to strangle Von Rumpel to death, but it's not very straightforward. Von Rumpel flails around and knocks over the table, holding the model of Saint-Malo Daniel made. The sea of flames pops out of its hiding spot. Von Rumpel sees it and makes one last desperate flail and manages to get free. He pulls out his gun and aims it at Werner, but just before he pulls the trigger, he hears the sound of another gun being cocked and realizes that Marie is standing right behind him. The floorboard beneath him creaks, and Marie shoots straight into his head.
Badass.
It was awesome. As his body slams to the ground, his eyes flicker to the diamond in front of him. So close, buddy. Werner and Marie are finally introduced to each other. Werner rejects the German soldier label, fair enough, and then he tries to pick up the diamond to hand to her. She stops him, and good boy that he is, Werner listens.
I love that he's just like, yeah, I'll ignore the gigantic diamond.
Yeah.
Pretty girl. Anyway, dawn has now broken over the town. Marie shows Werner the now slightly more significantly fucked up looking attic room where Etienne used to broadcast from. He looks around in wonder. Werner delivers his message from the professor and they bond over their similar experience of listening to the radio shows. Werner explains that he was an orphan, so the professor felt like a father to him. He says that he used to see this room when he closed his eyes. Marie counters that she didn't need to close her eyes to see the same. Girl, I love you. Suddenly, they're both quoting the professor again. Sound the klaxon, everyone.
Yes!
Awooga, awooga.
Awooga.
Quote, the most important light is the light you cannot see, end quote. Werner is hungry, so she offers him a can of peaches. And this time, the can is cut open properly. We have success.
Yes.
They share the food and giggle together in delight. I don't know what was so funny, but just go with it. When the radio on the desk starts making a weird noise, Werner goes to fix it. He suddenly realizes that he can broadcast and decides to play the music the professor used to play on the show, Claire de Lune. And he speaks to his sister over the radio. by some miracle that I didn't really buy, his sister, who was so against listening to the radio, is still at the orphanage in Germany and hears him and bursts into joyful, relieved tears. He tells his sister he's safe, and more importantly, that he is in France, that he found and met the professor, and that he is standing next to a girl with beautiful eyes. Very smooth. He tells his sister he loves her, and after he bids her goodbye, the piano music plays on. Werner climbs out of the chair by the radio and approaches Marie, and I screamed. They hug! And remember listening to this. They both remember listening to this song as a small child. Her hands reach for his face, and before long, they're kissing. I know! It's really, really sweet. When the music ends, they can hear the Americans entering the city. Way to ruin it, America!
Yeah.
And although Marie wants to help escape...
Timing!
Marie wants to help him escape. He tells her she would be shot as a collaborator. Instead, he tells her to broadcast from shortwave 1310, and after the war is over, he will find her.
We cut out onto the streets of Saint-Malo. The townspeople are cheering and waving the tricolor as American troops march through the town. Werner comes out of Marie's house waving a white flag and is taken prisoner. Marie takes her handkerchief and picks up the diamond that is lying next to the man she killed. She walks through the celebrating town onto a quiet beach where she throws the diamond into the water. As she did this, I couldn't help to think she didn't throw it far enough, but she is literally blind, so who am I to grumble? We get a rather beautiful close-up of Marie listening to the water crash around her as the music swells and the camera pulls back to show the burnt wreck of the town. The credits roll, but they also contain some astounding real footage of Saint-Malo following the bombing in black and white, and then a more recent drone shot of the completely repaired town. The end.
Ta-da!
Yay!
We got there. We
Yes.
finally got there. Okay.
Yes.
What did you think?
I thought it was good.
That's it. That's the podcast. Let's go home.
Yes. I thought it was good. I can't say it was great,
Yeah.
but I thought it was good. But it wasn't bad enough to get the ratings that it got. I will say that.
Yeah. But, like, I definitely... Look, it's been 2 weeks since I saw this episode, and I have been feeling confused and conflicted. Like, over the course of this podcast, maybe I will have an opinion, but I don't know how I feel. Just, I liked it, but I can also definitely say I understand the bad reviews because there were elements of Pearl Harbour adjacent feelings at times.
Yeah.
And Pearl Harbour is basically how I measure all films. Like, is it Pearl Harbour bad? Or is it... I really fucking hate Pearl Harbour. Having said that, I don't think it was bad. But,
I don't think it was, 28 tomatoes bad?
Yeah, exactly. It
was not that bad.
But I definitely understand why. Like, it just suddenly felt like the tone shifted into action movie territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And all the nuance that we'd got in the previous episodes was gone.
Mm-hmm.
But the performances were so good. I was like, I'm enjoying it. But, like, is it good? That's another question. It's the age-old conundrum. This is not good, but if I enjoy it, does that make it good? Question mark. That is what we will be grappling with today. So how did it strike you as a final episode? Did you feel like everything was wrapped up well?
Yeah.
I mean, they killed off everyone. Like, everyone died.
Yeah, of course, we know that Etienne was not going to survive. He had he was walking around in a red shirt from, I think, the get-go. Aunt Manek, that broke my heart. But, we knew that she was going to die because
Where
of
was
just
she? She
how,
had to die.
Yeah, I mean, just how fragile she was in the first few minutes of the episode. Of course she was going to die. Von Rumpel, he wasn't going to make it. If someone didn't kill him, the morphine would. It just, things were wrapped up in too pretty a bow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to say. It's like,
yep.
It's like, okay, gonna kill this person. Now, moving on to the next person. They've got to die.
Yep.
Oh, we've got to explain how they died. Okay, that's
Yep. Daniel dying, of course, he was going to die. So, it was like everything, they were ticking the boxes, man.
I don't know that we should complain that there's a satisfactory wrapped up things because we've seen so many shows that don't. But it's also like it felt sort of paint by numbers. It didn't have like any kind of emotional impact because you just like, we've got another one. Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
I did particularly j'adored the fact that Von Rumpel was killed right in front of the diamond. That was
that was perfect.
I rewatched it like 5 times to make sure that he was looking at it before he died, and I was like, the actor was so good. You could see him go, his eyes flicker right before he passed out. He he totally registered it. Yep. I love this.
Oh, that was probably the best part.
Yeah.
That whole sequence of, him playing cat and mouse with her and Marie, countering with the gun, and that whole thing, I felt was perfect. The way that they did that, and it tied in very well with the previous 3 episodes that we'd seen. They'd had the same feel. But, all of the bombings and multiple concussions and, running through the streets.
Through explosions.
Yeah. That was just like, okay, what the hell?
I mean, at one point, when he saw the explosion, of the attic, and then he got to her house quicker than he had got from, out of the rubble of one explosion and through the streets. I was just like, this doesn't... don't make me think about how it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the differences between the novel and the show, in particular with, the endings. Oh, God. How far are you into the book?
I have to admit, I still haven't finished it. So,
well, this is going to be highly spoilerific for you, but
please go right ahead. I'm willing to take it. Gimme.
Okay, first off, Etienne doesn't die. This is
what?
So he's imprisoned, and taken offshore when the bombing of Saint-Malo takes place. So he is incapable of being bombed.
So he's captured by the Germans?
Yeah. Because he's a spy.
I know.
And he ends up living with Marie in Paris and traveling all over the world. He gets a happy ending. I think that's nice.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah.
He's very different in the book, to be fair. Anyway, so Daniel.
Yeah.
So he gets arrested in the show and the novel. That's similar. He steps off the train. He's immediately
come with
suspicious to the Gestapo. This same, but in the novel, he is taken to a work camp in Germany, and dies of influenza after sending a few letters to Marie. So
okay.
I really liked that part of the novel, but I can understand why they cut it out.
Yeah. As you're saying this, it is just going Hollywood.
We'll get to
Hollywood.
that's one of my questions.
Yes.
Everything to do with how Werner and Marie Le meet is different, as you know. So he actually meets her the same night as the hotel gets bombed in the novel. So, like, he goes from being stuck in the rubble of that hotel, and he goes straight to her house, which actually makes a lot more sense. But anyway, we've got all this nonsense in between. And he goes straight to try and save her from Von Rumpel, and he's the one that shoots Von Rumpel.
Okay.
Not Marie, which I think, like, I like this change, that she's a strong, independent blind girl that shoots him herself.
Yeah. And it's believable.
Is it believable? I don't know that it's believable.
Think so.
That a blind girl is the best shot in the show is believable?
No, but no. Thinking about how keen her sense of hearing is.
They have really played up her superpower. Yeah.
And how precise she is with measuring steps and, able to tell, well, the sixth stair creaks and, XYZ. She has a great deal of self-awareness and the awareness of the space that she is inhabiting in almost preternatural way.
Yes.
And so
true.
Keeping that in mind, I bought her being the one that shoots Von Rumpel.
I just think it's satisfying. I don't know that I think that it holds up, like, to logic. But
well, I think in
narratively
reality,
it makes sense.
Yeah. In reality, no. But given the way that they have portrayed her in the television show, I'm all in with her superpowers.
Yes. And I just think it makes more sense narratively to have her do it, because he's killed her father and he's been terrorizing her. It's just more satisfying for her to do it than have Werner come in and save the day,
and rescue. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so in the novel, Marie takes Werner to the grotto, which is where she gets rid of the diamond, and they have a whole thing. I'm not going to get into it. It's complicated.
A whole thing?
They don't fuck in the grotto.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
I didn't think so. Because
very unlikely.
Yeah.
Okay. Werner surrenders to the Americans in the show and in the novel. So that's, But in the novel, we follow as he is transferred from prison to prison following the war until he falls gravely ill, and in a haze of fever, Werner walks out of his medical tent he's been staying in and steps onto a landmine and explodes and dies.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Werner dies before the end of the war.
Oh, what a way to go.
I thought... Okay, we'll get into my feelings about this. Anyway, Yuta is much more of a figure in the novel. Following her separation from her brother, she moves to, I think, Berlin, and gets a work in a laundry, and is raped by Russian soldiers when they...
Oh, for God's sake.
Storm in... Yeah. Oh, God. Unfortunately, very, very realistic.
Yeah.
We follow her until around 1974, when she travels to Saint-Malo and Paris to meet Marie Le, who is now Dr. LeBlanc. We haven't mentioned that that's her surname. That's her surname. She studies mollusks at the same museum her father worked in. And they talk about Werner. Yeah. We then cut to 2012. Marie is now kind of an old lady. She walks around the streets of Paris with her grandson. She had kids. Isn't that nice? She gets to live a long, happy life. Werner's dead, but she gets to live. So, do all these changes... and even without the changes, if you were just watching it, did this feel like a bit of a quote-unquote Hollywood ending?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. All of the things that you just talked about, would have extended the show for another 3 episodes easily.
And I would have watched them gladly.
I probably would too. But no, I mean just the way that the 4th episode was structured and how the events unfold, totally Hollywood ending.
Yeah. And I also think, like, the insertion of Mark Ruffalo into this show where he doesn't really make any sense now makes a lot more sense to me now, having seen this ending. I'm like, oh, because this is the most Hollywood version of the story ever. Like, they were just like, let's get Mark Ruffalo in this. It doesn't make sense, but we need views.
Why not? Woo!
And I think also there was a bit of a glowing attitude towards the Americans throughout the show. They were like,
oh,
the
definitely.
Americans will come save the day. Go surrender to the Americans. They'll give you food. As we will discuss in History Corner, no, they will fucking not. The reality is just so much bleaker, and I think the novel fully leans into the fact that everything is terrible because it's a war, you know?
Yeah.
There's no Hollywood ending in a war.
Yeah.
You can survive a horrific attack and then go step on a landmine, you know? Like, there's no happy ending.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I actually had a lot of fun watching the Hollywood version of this. The explosions were kind of cool, but, intellectually, I know that this wasn't a very good adaptation of the novel because I think it warps the message of the story, ultimately, into something that is very cutesy.
Yeah.
It's a weird...
Yeah.
It's a weird adjective for a war story, but there you go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as we reflect on, how you've shared with us the differences in the novel versus the show, we have, in order to have that Hollywood ending, logic and reason really must leave the building. It's gotta fly out the window.
It got shot out the window by Marie. It just fell to its death.
Oh gosh, and we've talked about a number of these things. The fact that Werner is surviving 2 massive explosions within the space of about 30 minutes, and still has the sense and capacity to run through the streets of Saint-Malo to save Marie. I
love that he's like, they made such a big point of explosions making your hearing go. And he, at no point is any of that true for Werner. He just pops right back up and keeps on going. You know what? This makes me think that if he did step on a landmine, he would be completely fine. He'd be fine.
You're like, it's just a scratch. I'll be fine.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lord.
And then you've got Von Rumpel threatening to kill Marie again. We've already established he can't do that because she's the one that knows where she doesn't, but he thinks she's the one that knows where the diamond is. So why is he doing all this shit again?
Because he's got to have a mwahaha moment. And it's not too mwahaha. But he's got to have his death scene, like in an opera or something like that. It's got to be this dramatic scene.
I don't think any of his actions really made any sense at all.
No, but my God, he's
in the house with the diamond.
Amazing.
I mean, he's amazing, but it's like, you're in the house with the diamond. Search the fucking house. She's barricaded herself in the room. Search the house.
Well,
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Anyway, but
No.
like you said, his performance was absolutely amazing, and I was like, the whole time. The way he was like, every time he had to fuck with her, he sort of sighed dramatically, like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm having to attack a blind girl."
When he winds up starting the count, you know, it's like, kind of like, okay, we've already done this. Okay, you're making me do this again. Fine, 10.
It's such a good performance, and I think honestly so much of this worked for me. Like, I know I'm complaining the whole time, but I did really enjoy it. Like, it worked for me because the performances were so good, and his performance in particular has been sensational throughout the whole series, but really made this episode stick together, because like the illogical things he was doing felt like it made sense because he was such a fucking mess. Like, this man was sweaty. He was hot propping himself up. He didn't know what he was doing, and I just kind of went with it, you know?
Oh, yeah. I am so totally impressed with this actor. I can't wait to go down a rabbit hole and try and find something else that he's done that I want to watch. But anyhow.
And of course we had Vanna on the wall watching the attic explode, then running along the wall, down some stairs, through the streets, up to her house in the remaining 3 seconds of the countdown.
Sure.
Okay, Vanna.
Okay.
Vanna may be actually more of a superhero than we anticipated.
Yeah, probably. But, yeah.
Okay.
Storylines. Yay! We had a bunch of flashbacks.
Yeah, okay, so some of them were really fun. I love Etienne's big day out. The vibe was very fun when he went fishing with Marie and like the biting into the burnt baguette and
yes.
Just generally Hugh Laurie, a delight.
Yes. You know, it was like, oh, right. This is what is fun about being out and about. You know, and being a sneaky spy with the French resistance. And him with his little hat on, and the scene between him and Aunt Manette, when she realizes that he's going to go out with Marie, I was in tears.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was just beautiful.
That was also the moment I realised she was going to die in the next.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, man.
Manette's death was bizarre. Yeah. It felt abrupt, but also telegraphed to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like, you don't need to have any kind of anxiety. It will mess with your heart. Oh, really? You just slapped a red shirt on her. Thank you.
They should have set this up in the previous episode as well.
Yes.
Like, she wasn't feeling well. It just suddenly felt like, she's sick now. And you're just like, what?
Because she seemed to be pretty energetic, you know, when we're seeing the ladies, you know, her little squad, you know, getting together and talking and, you know, that kind of thing. You know, she seemed pretty energetic. I didn't get that she was ill until they mentioned it.
Yeah,
in this episode.
Not really how you should do that. You need to, you should have been, I think, introduced in the previous episode. I think a lot of the problems were just because they were like, shit, quick, get this done. You know?
Yeah.
Like, we have 30 minutes. Quick, kill her off.
Yeah, only one episode left. We've got to, like, just get everything taken care of.
I think, by contrast, the way they revealed that Daniel was dead and that Von Rumpel killed him perfect. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. It worked really well. And the abruptness of his killing Daniel was striking as well. And again, it's because we have this actor who is amazing. And I thought that the scene where, Daniel confronts him and says, you're sick, you smell of sick, that part of that scene where Daniel is getting he's spitting his comments at Von Rumpel, and Von Rumpel is responding. I thought that play went really, really well. And then finally Von Rumpel is like, dude, boom.
Mark Ruffalo's best acting on this show was that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he saw that there was somebody who was doing a good job in front of him and was like, shit, I gotta raise my game. I mean, his accent was still bad, but Daniel seemed smart and competent, which was new for him.
Yeah. I really wish that they had just made the decision not to have him do an accent so that it wouldn't be so jarring that, he could focus on the performance versus trying to haul that sad thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, that was fantastic. And I love that the show had the balls to show him being shot in the head. I was like, oh shit!
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't surprised in a way because I was just waiting to see it because it was very obvious that was going to happen. But fun. Like the fact that I knew it was coming, but it still got a visceral reaction out of me is a good thing, really.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so enough of these flashbacks. We're in 1944, which is still the past, but, go with it. Von Rumpel versus Marie, definitely the highlight of the show, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. That was magnificent. I loved it.
The way they managed to drag the tension out for, the whole episode was amazing. Even though I was sort of like, really? Really? Why aren't you looking for the diamond? It also made perfect sense. And I love all the back and forth between them.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, let's talk Marie and Vanna. Oh my god. Okay. My ship's at sail. It went straight to Smooch Town.
You were having feels.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my god.
Oh.
First, I thought it was kind of crazy that she's like, yeah, I trust you, person I've never met before, who's yelling at me. That's insane, but go with it. And then when they were in the same room, I was like, how do they have this much chemistry? How is this happening?
I know. I could have watched another couple hours with the two of them.
Just like when she started touching his face, I was like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for.
Oh, I'm just dying. Yes. Yeah, they were fantastic.
I mean, they were so flirty as well, which was really weird. I was like, you just killed a man. Why are you giggling over peaches?
Well, maybe they were feeling like giddy at, having, gotten away with
murder.
Yeah, or giddy with life. But yeah, I mean, and peaches. I was hoping they were peaches. But I wanted so much more with the two of them together.
Fingers crossed Vanna doesn't get exploded in this mythical version of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear so many stories about people hooking up when they announced the end of the war. Maybe this is a version of it. They were just like, let's make out. The Americans are here. I don't know. I enjoyed so much of this.
Yes.
This was my happy place.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of that, Liberation came. And, that was a very moving scene. Seeing all those French people waving their little flags.
Yes.
But also kind of like felt a tiny, tiny bit premature. I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah. I
guys.
mean, I had the song from Wizard of Oz going through my head while I watched it. You're out of the dark, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night, you're out. Everything step into the light. Hoo, 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 hoo. After they have come to from the poppy field and they're skipping their way down to Oz. It's like, no, this is
Guys,
going to be a little more difficult than what we're seeing right here.
why are you so happy? You literally just watched your entire city get bombed to shit. Also by the
Yes.
Americans.
Destroyed.
Destroyed. A lot of people died.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all like, woo! Let's climb on some American tanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was moving, but I was also like, logically, this is...
Well,
okay, let people be happy, Rita, but still.
Well, now that I pause to think about it, the French had lived through a truly atrocious period of time. And I would imagine that logic would fly after you've been captive under these Germans for so long, that when liberation comes, you are rejoicing over the fact that you are no longer held by these horrible individuals. You see the pictures that, Life magazine had, after the end of the war with, sailors making out with nurses and, all of that kind of stuff going on. It's like, I don't think that those individuals were in their right minds at that time.
Trauma response.
Yes, exactly.
I think
So
it's
I'm
just
gonna
the
cut him
fact
some
that it
slack.
was like the end of the show. Like, maybe it would
Yeah.
be. Yeah, definitely agree that this would be a completely normal human reaction. But the fact that they were framing it as like, it's the end of the show and everybody's happy and France is free and yay!
Yeah.
Which I felt was a bit, again, goes into the Hollywood simplism, are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we'd had some kind of epilogue that followed
that would have been good.
Those scenes, that would have been great.
What a good suggestion. An epilogue would have been better. Because what we actually got was Marie going to throw the Sea of Flames into the ocean. Which, as I wrote in the recap, I did think that's just going to come up to shore in about 20 minutes.
Exactly. That sucker needed to be dropped out into the
middle of the ocean.
The middle of the ocean.
Like what they did to Osama bin Laden, just somewhere.
Yeah, just somewhere out in the middle of the ocean. Because that thing's gonna come back and it's just gonna start this crap all over again.
Yeah, in the book
what does she do with it?
She throws it into the ocean, but in the grotto.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Is, I think, still somewhat problematic, but not many people go in there. So, the beach feels like a place where most of the town will eventually come.
And someone's going to step on it when they're out there waiting around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I like that they never really got into, was it cursed? I know Marie didn't want to touch it, but there's still the likelihood that diamond is just a completely normal diamond. Because I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Yeah. Okay, people, it's time for Rita's Unnecessary Historical Context Corner.
Woo!
What have you got for us this week?
Okay, so what could have happened to Vanna? And in this case, I think the book, once again, is historically accurate. How was the US treatment of prisoners of war? And the answer was not quite as rosy as the show made out. You'll be unsurprised to learn. According to military historian Simon Mackenzie, quote, callous self-interest and a desire for retribution played a role in the fate of German prisoners, end quote. He exemplifies by pointing out that sick or otherwise unfit prisoners were forcibly used for labour, and in France and the Low Countries, this also included work such as highly dangerous mine clearing.
Oh.
So by September 1945, it was estimated by the French authorities that 2,000 prisoners were being maimed and killed each month in accidents clearing mines. So that's option A for Werner. He could have been maimed and killed clearing mines.
Yep.
Option B. Oh God, why didn't I look up how to pronounce this?
Rhein Weisenlager?
Okay. Option B is the Rhein-Weisenlager, a group of 19 camps built in the Allied occupied part of Germany by the US Army to hold captured German soldiers at the close of the Second World War. These prisons held between 1 and almost 2 million surrendered personnel from April until September 1945. The conditions were appalling. There seems to be some wrangling over the number of deaths inside the camp, some claiming it to be as high as the hundreds of thousands. But your more conservative American historians are like, it wasn't that bad. Only a few thousand deaths happened. Okay, dude, that's still too many deaths. But we know from officials... Yes?
I mean, Geneva Convention, anyone?
Yes, that's why we need that.
Yes.
We know from official sources that there was insufficient food and water for the prisoners that led to mass starvation and malnutrition, and we're talking millions of people.
Oh my God.
This breaks international law, by the way. At that very moment, like, that law wasn't made afterwards, you know. So thanks, America. After the war, some of the prisoners from this camp were taken to clear minefields. These forced labourers were already very weak, many weighing barely 50 kilograms. That's 110 pounds, or 9 stone. The good news is that Werner was not captured by the Russians, who, to be fair, far, far, far worse conditions.
Oh my God.
But, you know, also good news, his hometown is very close to Dusseldorf. And again, if you don't know where that is, please look at a map because, you know, I'm not here to teach you geography. It's very much in West Germany. This territory was initially parcelled out to the British, but would later form the nation of West Germany. So if he survived the war camp, the starvation, digging up mines, he could have eventually travelled home to see his sister Anne-Marie. Had he been from East Germany, that would have been relatively impossible. And, you know, so that's a silver lining. But also, is it question mark? I think he probably would have died before he got there.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Probably.
Okay, God, why did I do this to myself? Moving on. Chanson d'automne. Sorry, French people. The Autumn Song is a poem by Paul Valan and is one of the best known in the French language. In preparation for Operation Overlord, which is the code name for the Battle of Normandy, the BBC's Radio London signalled to the French resistance with the opening lines of the 1866 Verlaine poem Chanson d'automne to indicate the start of D-Day operations under the command of the Special Operations Executive. I was like, what the fuck is Radio London? So you're going to find out too. Radio London was a radio station broadcast from 1940 to 1944 by the BBC in London to Nazi-occupied France. It was entirely in French and was operated by the Free French who had escaped from occupied France. It opened its transmission with, oh God, I'm just going to say it in English. This is London, the French speaking to the French. Okay? Now, a very famous quote in France, apparently. It served not only to counter the propaganda broadcasts of German-controlled Radio Paris and the Vichy government's Radio Diffusion Nationale, but also to appeal to the French to rise up, as well as being used to send coded messages to the French resistance. Why haven't they made a TV show about this? Anyway,
I know, right? That sounds great.
the first 3 lines of the poem, the long sobs of autumn violins, remember, would mean that the Operation Overlord was to start within 2 weeks. These lines were broadcast on the 1st of June, 1944. The next set of lines, "Wound my heart with a monotonous languor," meant that it would start within 48 hours and that resistance should begin sabotage operations, especially on the French railroad system. These lines were broadcast on the 5th of June. So you see, they were like, you need some warning.
Yeah.
Hold up. I thought everything to do with the codes is kind of cool. Anyway, kind of a tangent, but we're going to learn about Braille. Yay.
Yes.
Did you know Braille was invented by a Frenchman?
Yes, I did.
His name was Charles Barber. The name night writing was later given to it when it was considered a means for soldiers to communicate silently at night without a light source. But Barber's writings do not use this term and suggest that he was originally designing it as a simpler form of writing and for the visually impaired. In Barber's system, sets of 12 embossed dots were used to encode 36 different sounds. Braille changed 3 major defects of his code. First, the symbols represented phonetic sounds and not letters in the alphabet. Thus, the code was unable to have a conventional spelling system because everybody makes different sounds when they speak. This is a big flaw. I don't know why he didn't see this. Second, the 12 dot symbols could not easily fit between the pads of a reading finger. This required the reading finger to move in order to perceive the whole symbol, which slowed the reading process. Third, the code did not include symbols for numerals or punctuation. Dude, why would you not come up with numbers?
Seriously.
So, Braille's solution was to use 6-dot cells and to assign a specific pattern to each letter of the alphabet. Braille also developed symbols for representing numbers and punctuation. So at first, Braille was a one-to-one translation of the French alphabet, but soon various abbreviations and even logograms were developed, creating a system much more like shorthand. Today, there are Braille codes for over 133 languages, but the conventions are based on the French model. So, yay,
That's
France!
awesome.
Vive la France!
Well done. Vive la France.
Okay, Claire de Lune. Not just the song from Twilight.
Oh, God. Really? I never saw the Twilight movies.
Fucking
thank
Twilight.
God.
Ruined this song. It's a piano suite by famous French composer Claude Debussy. He began composing it around 1890 at the age of 28, but significantly revised it just before its 1905 publication. During this revision, Debussy changed the name of at least 2 of the pieces. These names came from poems by Paul Verlaine. Yes, the same dude that wrote Autumn Song. See, it's all connected. Verlaine's poem of the same name depicts the soul as somewhere full of music, quote, in a minor key, end quote, where birds are inspired to sing by the sad and beautiful light of the moon. Poor Verlaine seems...
Well done, Rita. That was great.
Now we all know more shit about French culture.
And what's wrong with that? Oh, favorite characters and performances. Okay. And again, I think we talked about those, some of those.
Mine would be Von Rumpel.
Absolutely.
Just
give that man Emmy.
Given the reviews, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I know.
Give him another show that he can get nominated for.
Yes. There we go.
Okay, favorite scene.
I think it was the scene. Oh, favorite scene? Well, Werner and Marie, of course. Love. I'm such a shipper at heart. But in all honesty, it was the scene with Von Rumpel and Marie as they're basically sparring with one another.
That's like the whole episode. That's not a scene.
Well, no, I mean, the scene where, he's outside of the attic room and he's got his grenade and his gun and they're just sparring with each other. That
he's
whole,
like, I killed your dad. I'll kill you.
Yeah, that whole thing. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with the scene where she shoots him and then he sees the thing because I watched it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so good.
Yeah.
It was so satisfying. Yep. Did I believe it would happen? Not really. But was it really cool? Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say about costumes?
No, because we're getting pretty dingy by this point.
It's just gross. Everything looks gross. Except Werner, who went from looking very fucked up in the first episode to I don't know, when he was sitting next to Marie, I was like, you look fine.
Did he have a tidy? Considering you've been in I think 4 explosions over the course of the last few days.
Also, the girl's blind. You don't need to dole up for her.
Yeah. Nice that you made the effort.
That is sweet.
Yes.
Locations.
How about locations?
I mean, I don't really have anything, except that I really did like seeing the images at the end of
Me too.
the show. That was fascinating.
I thought that was great. And it made me, wander over to YouTube and start looking for video if I could find it. And just really fascinating. And I saw a couple of them that were the scenes that they showed at the end of the episode. But and I loved how they did the pan out of, the destroyed Saint-Malo to present day at the very end. I really like that.
That was quite moving in its own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, God. Anything you didn't like? I feel like we've covered this quite a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest problem was the Hollywood neat little bows. Everything's great. French liberated. Americans have saved the day. America! Fuck yeah!
Fuck yeah! Oh, God. I hate that. The whole, America riding into, the rescue thing. I hate that.
And Marie's buying into it, the Americans will give you food. That is exactly what they won't do, Marie.
Exactly.
We're going to starve him.
Exactly. But she was definitely right. If she had done anything to hustle him away, she would have wound up as a collaborator. And that was not a scene that we would wish on our worst enemy.
I mean, of all the options, I'd take just go with the Americans. That was the best option, but it just felt a bit like they were trying to, the show, it was like the show was trying to spin it as yay, the Americans.
Mm-hmm. When it
which
was
is what they've been doing throughout the whole entire series. Yeah.
And as we've learned in your historical context corner, not so great.
No. I think that's one thing that nobody ever talks about was okay, yes, the Germans were obviously far, far, far worse. But the whole liberation process wasn't some great big party and everything went back to being perfect.
Yeah.
There was still more trauma to come. You think the trauma is over, but it just keeps on coming.
It just keeps on coming.
And the rebuilding process took, a generation.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, decades.
And I think the novel is has a much better stance on that and is much more clear. Hey, this it wasn't just like, woo, the war's over, everything's great. Like having
Mm-hmm.
even the flash forward to like 2012, she's still
Mm-hmm.
haunted by the events of so many years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very clear. Maybe they'll do a series
yeah.
2. No, they won't. They got really bad reviews.
Yeah. That's not happening. Oof. So, how many Sea of Flames out of 5?
3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. It's just a shame. We've been giving them 5s, and then the last episode.
Yeah, 5s across the board. Oh, 3. Because, I liked it, but, oof. Guys,
you needed, like, 2 more episodes so that you could have had a little bit more nuance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, inbox.
Inbox time.
So, hey ladies. And so, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Winky emoji. Just some quick notes. Things I didn't enjoy this episode. Poor old Aunt and Uncle Etienne dying. I guess we knew it was coming, but it was still sad to see because poor Marie has now lost all who are dear to her. Yeah, but she got a boyfriend.
For 2 seconds.
And then he got arrested.
Yeah.
Hated the manic Gestapo interrogation of Gruffalo. I mean, I had to look away when he lifted the hammer.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
Things I enjoyed this episode. Vanna does his best Tom Cruise impression, dodging gunfire and running through falling bombs to get to Marie. He could have grabbed all sorts of things to attack Gestapo man, because becoming more grotesque with every step, but he chose to pull apart the radio, of course, to make a garrote. But our hero makes it. Hooray. And how should they celebrate? With peaches. But now they can actually open the can this time.
Yes.
Lord bless you, Vanna.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that he reached out to his sister by radio and the music, which coincidentally my hubby has been playing on the violin for the past couple of weeks.
Aww.
He had not been so warped and scarred by his war experiences and still found tenderness to reach out. Oh, Vanna, you sweet boy.
That was lovely.
He's a nice boy. Also, must shout out to the production crew on this series. Sound, colour and sets were amazing. It should win an award. Lovely little mini-series. Enjoyed it. Until next time, ciao, Maria in Australia.
Thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Maria. And yes, you are right to point out that the sound and the colour and the sets and everything, amazing.
Yeah, really did a wonderful job.
I loved how they did all the bombing. The bombing was sensational.
Yeah. Okay, hello, Michelle and Rita. I have seen the last 2 episodes, and it has been a wonderful series. Maria is such a badass character, sweet, independent, and fearless. I was so happy to see Marie and Werner unite at the end of episode 4. It was so thrilling to see him run to get Marie to save her from Von Rumpel. I was so sad to see Etienne die. He was one of the standout characters of the series. I was a little upset that Marie told Werner to surrender to the American soldiers when they arrived in Paris. I would like for them to run off together. Me too. I would have liked to have more episodes and more backstory on Etienne and Aunt Menek. I really enjoyed this series but wanted more. Thanks for covering this series, Delia. And Delia, if you want more of backstories and things like that, definitely check out the book. It is great.
I mean, they did not give it a Pulitzer Prize for nothing. It is very, very good.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this podcast. We hope you will join us in the new year. This is the last pod of the year. We're exhausted. We need a break. We'll be back with our podcast on normal people. Michelle, I have some news for you. The episodes of Normal People are only half an hour long. So
excellent. Okay. We're doing this episode by episode?
Yes.
Okay.
But joyfully, the recaps will be shorter and hopefully the discussions shorter. Everyone, if you haven't seen Normal People, I highly recommend you should join us. You're going to have a really great time. But
awesome.
In the meantime, between now, I think we should be back the first week of
January, yeah.
Of January, yeah. We hope you have a lovely holiday season. And if you need to contact us, if there's like some kind of period drama emergency, email us at inthebooksnetwork@gmail.com and follow us on social media at inthebooksnetwork for more fun period drama takes from us and, updates about podcasts.
Yes.
Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you all next year. Bye!
Bye!
Seems like these days the whole world's on fire. Things keep blowing the hell up. And while all those rubberneckers and looky-loos stand slack-jawed staring, the real men have the nuts to walk away. Yeah. Cool guys don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then walk away. Who's got time to watch an explosion? There's cool guy areas that they have to walk to. Keep walking, keep shining. Don't look back, keep on walking. Keep strutting, slow motion. The more you ignore it, the cooler you look. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Neil Diamond.
Where are we? Cool guys don't look at explosions. They stride forward in the diamond-covered boots. They wear jumpsuits of glittery rhinestones and walk away in slow motion.
Keep walking,
you're cruising. Cherry, cherry, sweet Caroline.
Denzel walks,
Will Smith walks. Mark Wahlberg is wearing a hat.
keyboard solo, J.J. Abrams. Yeah!
Now you're talking. Okay.
Because
Cool guys don't look at explosions. The flames are hot, but their heart is chilled. Walk fast from that boring explosion and don't think about the people you've killed.